Hey guys, Mike here. So, oh boy, what a day in the market. I mean, meme stock mania spreading to other stocks, and things were just going crazy at the open today. And of course, the indexes weren't doing anything until probably about 2 o'clock in the afternoon. That is the SPY and the QQQ. The IWM was going crazy. And if you don't understand why, because I told the member in the video today, a lot of those stocks that are getting short squeezed, they trade on the IWM. Okay, so just keep that in mind, the Russell 2000. So that's one reason. So when stocks are up 40, 50, 100%, that's going to help, right? And so a lot of those don't trade on the S&P or anything like that. So you got to kind of keep that in mind. So, and if they do, their weights are so minuscule, it's not even funny. All right. So one, congratulations. I'm glad that you got the pump in the morning. So a lot of you guys would DM me and email me. You were able to get out and you made good money. I couldn't be happier for you. Please go celebrate. For those who got stuck in again today at the top, maybe it'll pump for you tomorrow and maybe you're able to get out. Now, another thing is, and we're going to get into a lot of stuff in this video, but I will say this. I read all the comments, and somebody said something yesterday and they said in the comments like, man, Mike is making a lot of mistakes lately. It seems like he just don't care anymore. Well, let me say, first of all, I definitely care. Second of all, you are 100% right, and I've noticed that myself, where I'm making small mistakes. Like yesterday I said, you know, they're buying these 0 DT options on GameStop AMC. That's totally not true. There's no such thing on them. They do weeklies on those, monthlies on a lot of these other stocks that are doing it. But I got so just honed in on that SPX, the SPY, 0 DT chart I showed you. And so that's why I said it, and I didn't catch it in editing. I think I did something last week with NVIDIA, and I mean, it's just, and I don't want to do that, right? I wear all the hats. It's a one-man army. As I teach my son, you know, a real man doesn't blame people for his problems or mistakes that he makes. And so it's all on me. So I'm definitely going to be spending a lot more focus on the editing process, okay? And there will be mistakes, but, you know, I'm definitely going to cut down on that because that is not me. It's not how I roll. And so I'll definitely take care of that and not make stupid small mistakes in the editing process if I made it while I was recording. So I apologize for that for sure. Again, so now you might have noticed the stock market dropped in the morning and recover. So of course, what happened? Well, PPI happened, and the year over year was fine. That was not the problem. It was the month over month. And this is what spike yields in pre-market, right? Came in at 0.5% versus estimates of 0.2, 0.3, but definitely well above. And the yields absolutely react the way we thought they would. All of a sudden, the futures go down by 0.5%, but completely recover by the open. And maybe one reason this is because when you look at what actually drove PPI, right? It was this right here, energy, obviously trade service. There's services right there is another one. There's your final demand total, which is 0.5. But you look down at the bottom, you know, transportation, warehouse services, minus. And so it might have been the things that was driving it up so much that the market said, whatever. And I'm talking about the bond market, not just the market. Now, of course, tomorrow we'll have core CPI and CPI headline, right, coming out. Also retail sales, Empire State manufacturing data. A boatload of stuff coming out. So it's going to be volatile, right? We know if CPI comes in line or even close to it seems like we're going to end up taking off. If it comes in hot, you would think, of course we saw that today, right, that it would absolutely go down, but it did not. Now, one thing driving this whole thing is the sentiment, right? I mean, you see right here the AAII members. Again, this looks like the next 6 months. The bulls obviously are much bigger, but really what the shrink was the bears, right? Absolutely dropped off a cliff from 32 to 23. And then the undecided, the ones in the middle, are like around 35% saying, I don't know which way this is going, right? But that's one reason you start to see this shift and this big push up. And of course, this bullishness is leading us to be only 0.35% away, I believe it is, from all-time highs on the S&P. And when we pull out and look at this, I mean, what a crazy, crazy recovery we have had here. And of course, we talked about, I mean, when you get to these levels, remember looking for double topping or an ugly head and shoulders going forward if it breaks through there and continues to go. But when you pull out on this, I mean, you can plainly see it has continued to just move up on this trend line right here, right? So tomorrow we'll get to see if we break through that trend line, which will put us through all-time highs. If, of course, CPI comes in where it's supposed to, and more importantly, how the bond market reacts, right? Now, definitely stocks to watch here. We wonder what would happen when Apple hit this trend line, right? Waiting for that third touch. So far, it was resistance today, right? It's what stopped it from moving up any higher. And so we got to watch this because if it breaks above, I told members that next trend line, which was support for a very long time, will be resistance, but that's not up to like 197 to around like 200 range, right? So we got some ways to go before you even get to that. And so again, you'll see levels around 190 and then of course 193. But again, that trend line right there should be major resistance if we even get there. So watch that one. One thing I did want to put in here though, I'll say I give Apple a lot of crap for not having a lot of growth, but their services sector is extremely impressive, right? 24 billion. You can see all the services. That is combined, that is more than if you combine all these companies like Netflix, MasterCard, EA Sports, and a bunch of others. That's extremely impressive, okay? I do got to say that about their service. That was the one that actually saved them and had all the growth, right? And so maybe they'll sell some more phones this year and make up for that. But now, look at Taiwan Semiconductors. You know, this one right here is breaking out. It's very close to price discovery, being back to all-time highs again. It's got a little bit ways to go right there. But again, this one right here has been moving up nicely since it got the news about its revenue and stuff like that. Definitely watch and see. I mean, again, when you get these tops right here, you're okay, are we going to double top down like it did before? Or what's going to happen here because these have been moving. But I think a lot of this, of course, will depend on NVIDIA. If NVIDIA reports really good earnings, it's going to drag all of these up even more for sure. And you can see, looking at the RSI, looking at stochastic, stuff like that, I mean, it's not overbought right now. And so, you know, again, it's starting to lose a little momentum, you would think. But once it gets above that next level, we see what happens to all those stocks. Once they break those all-time highs, is one of two things. They double top it out to sell back down, which we'll get in Amazon in a minute, or obviously break out and you don't know where they're going because it's price discovery. They can just keep mooning for you, especially a Semiconductor. Now, when you look at Google, it's plain and simple. It's turning this trend line that was resistance for quite a while into support. Over a year, it was resistance right there, and now it is support. So, you know, looking at this one right here, again, this one's very close to doing what? Going back to another all-time high, which it just previously set right there very recently. And so, you know, this one's been on the move. It did have, you know, this candle right here is all about news, okay? This is basically, you saw Apple go with Microsoft yesterday trying to work out a deal and stuff. But when you look at what Google's doing here, they rolled out again. Here's the AI pump, right? Their generative AI features and stuff like that. And what they're going to do is overhaul their search engine and stuff. And so, you know, we'll see. Again, they even rolled out the prices of what they're going to be charging and stuff. And we'll see if people want to pay it. That's really going to be the big thing to see. But they're, you know, just trying to compete with Microsoft at this point in time for sure. There's no doubt about that. And of course, people like it. And Google has been on fire. I mean, it's actually surprised me as well as it has performed. And so we'll see how that plays out. Now, Amazon, we talked about this double top possibility. Do I expect it to play out? Absolutely not. But you can see that's what it's forming right now. And so we'll see until obviously proven wrong. And so, again, when you pull up the RSI, when you pull up stochastic and everything like that, you know, this one right here is showing slight bearish divergence right there, as you can see. Obviously, lower and low on the RSI right there. And then, of course, you got slightly higher high, which it is set on the right-hand side right there. And it looks like, you know, is it starting to lose a little momentum? Yeah, we'll see on this one. I mean, again, you go to the weekly, that's where you really want to look at right here. You can see the stochastic is trying to turn back up. So again, if the market decides to go to all-time highs, keep pushing. And of course, Amazon's probably going to come right along with them, right? Now, Shopify hit this trend line we've been waiting on and bounced today. That's what we got to see if it's going to hold this or not. So it's not just that a trend line, it's also at support right here. So decent confluence there. And I mean, this one got obliterated after earnings, like so many of these stocks. I mean, if it breaks that trend line, obviously we got a whole lot more hurt involved. But right now, it is holding the trend line as of today. Watch it tomorrow for a bounce. And again, all this is going to depend on what this market wants to do when it gets to the all-time high, right? Now, Alibaba crushed on earnings. This is what we talked about yesterday. Is it going to be a faker? Is the bad news baked in? Obviously not. Its profit fell off a cliff. It's trying to get back above this 200, but when you look at this, I mean, obviously it's a huge move, right, for this stock and a lot of these Chinese stocks. But it came down to a very important level, and it needs to hold this level around 78.30. Why did it stop there? Why did buyers step in? Because it's previous support and resistance. It had done a resistance support flip, but you can see in the past, many times this thing has bounced. Okay, so that's why buyers stepped in right here. And so we'll see if they can push this up and close that gap. And get this train back going for this one. Not surprised. I mean, earnings have just been horrible for this. And don't forget, we got Baidu Thursday, right? Now, AMD, you would have thought we'd had a nice little breakout, but what it's doing is just grinding down this trend line, which was resistance many, many, many times, right? And usually this results in an explosive move up, but we just haven't got that. And when I'm looking at these, it's like, you know, these things just waiting on NVIDIA, because remember, they're going to report next week, if I'm not mistaken. And so, you know, that could be what's going on. But again, it's setting that support right now, right? It was resistance, became support, setting on this trend line. And so that could be what it's doing. I mean, we're going to have to see. I wouldn't blame it one bit. I mean, you would think, like with Taiwan Semiconductors, for example, the news it reported, all of these would be going crazy. But that's just not the case right now. And this one's been punished heavily compared to a whole bunch of them. And so, again, if it breaks back below this trend line right here, even though you can see on the weekly right there, stochastic's trying to turn up. It's trying to get the momentum turned up and everything. And it's just sitting right on top of that trend line. If it breaks back down below it, then of course you can look for like 134 to come into play again for sure, and the 200 moving average. And one I don't normally talk about here, but ELF, right? When it comes to makeup and stuff, watch this one. It's at this trend line. This is how this moves. If it breaks that trend line, then obviously watch for the 200 right below it. But again, this one could be getting a bounce, and this is one to watch because it's going to be reporting next week, I believe it is. And you got to sit there and think to yourself, if makeup is having a problem, right? They report slow earnings and stuff of makeup, then we might have a really, really big problem. But this is one of those stocks when it sells down because it has a low float, right? And I don't know if it's usually how it's short or anything, because I mean it's had just this crazy run up, right? When it crashed down in 2022, even though it turned faster than any of the rest of them. But usually makeup is something, you know, women buy. It's usually in high demand. So if this one comes up short on earnings and has a huge drop down, watch it carefully, because when it does bounce, it bounces extremely hard to the upside and stuff. And it could just have a huge reaction off this trend line after earnings as well. It could be what it's just meandering around right now about. Now, when it comes to earnings tomorrow, the only thing I'll be looking for is Cisco, right? There's other stocks in here you may want to pick yourself, but I don't really see anything, you know, until really Thursday. And of course, another stock I didn't mention or show the chart to was Tesla. It bounced off its 50 moving average, broke through that trend line we had talked about and discussed, and had a really nice move up. So we'll get to see if it actually holds on to those gains or not. But besides that, you know, it's all about CPI tomorrow. We'll see how the market's going to react. If it comes in hot, expect the 10-year to jump. Will it stay up there? That's a whole different story. I told the members, it's all about that channel. It's holding on for dear life at the bottom of the channel. I'm talking about the 10-year. If it falls out of that, well, the market's definitely going past all-time highs for sure. But if it gets momentum back up to the top of that channel, yeah, stocks are going to be under a lot of pressure. So just kind of keep that in mind. So we'll see how it goes, and just buckle up for a very nice volatile day. We'll see how all the meme stocks are doing, putting the bottom of your prediction and stuff. Again, I'm glad some of you were able to exit some of the positions you told me about this morning and stuff, and make your money back and then some. So I think that's great. Congratulations. Go celebrate. All right. So please hit the like and subscribe button on your way out, and I'll see you tomorrow.